all this. Hi, my name is Charles Malky, biologist and plant expert with Ivy Organics, where we grow cool plants. And today we're at the very top of the Hollywood-Knolls in the Hollywood Hills, where we're going to be discussing three very important issues with three guest speakers. The first one is going to be myself, and I'm going to be talking about plant reproduction, and more specifically, plant sex. The second guest speaker is going to be Brad Fickes, who's got 30 years in the plant business, and he's going to be talking about citrus care. And our last speaker is going to be Steve List, and he's a teacher at the Sylmar Charter High School Department of Agriculture. And there he has a program where he educates the students on plant care at a very young age, starting in high school, and creates these plants to benefit the homeless in Los Angeles and other people in need. So we've got an excellent program, and he's going to be talking specifically about vegetable and plant care just in general. So we're going to be covering all of those topics. Stay tuned, and I hope you enjoy this. And check out some of these views behind me. We got a little peek of view of the Hollywood sign. A little further to the right, you'll see the observatory, and then further down, you'll see downtown Los Angeles, just right over the Hollywood Lake. Stay tuned, and I hope you enjoy this series by Ivy Organics. Thank you.
If I've got 5 pages of notes, so instead of printing them all, I've got in this packet right here, I have several different. I have a chart of the different types of citrus. I have basically times that they come into the fruit's ready to yield, which is important because you want to make sure that with your citrus varieties, like with orange trees, there's different types of navels. There's Valencia. You want to plant your fruit trees so that you have a chance to be able to pick fruit over the longest period of time. So, like for example, a Washington navel may actually the fruit might become ripe right around December. That's at least when I see it. My Valencias started, let's say, about a month or two after that. So it's nice to be able to understand the different fruit varieties so that you have fruit as much of the year as possible. So I have that chart in here. I have a little, basically a sheet here about a very a big threat here in California. It's called citrus greening, or HLB, and it's threatening the citrus industry. So that's in here too. You can read about that. And then also we have in here different maladies or different there's different diseases, symptoms like nutrient deficiencies for citrus. It has pictures of the leaves, which is important because I'll be talking about that as well. So I'm going to pass this around so you can start looking at it as I'm talking. So my presentation today is going to be on citrus. It's going to be a 30,000 foot level talk about citrus. Not be specifically, I'll touch on some specifics, but moreover, where they came from originally, how to take care of them, the different varieties, and then at the very end, if I have time, we'll take questions. And is somebody watch my time here? 15 minutes? Okay. All right. So to start off with, and again, it's based upon my experience as well. Actually, the citrus originated. There were just 4 varieties of citrus, thousands of years ago. There was the citron, there was the mandarin orange, the pomelo, and the papadilla. And from those different varieties over the year, over crossbreeding and and importation, we now have kumquats, we have tangerines, we have sweet oranges that you get in the store. But those were the original varieties. They came from Southeast Asia. They came from Australia, New Caledonia, and then over a period of time, traders through history. Back in 2000 BC, the Chinese actually there was evidence of citrus in China. The Egyptians had citrus. Alexander the Great brought citrus into Europe, and so it's over a period of time it's made its way. The citrus that we know today, the sweet oranges, were brought in by the conquistadors, the Spanish, brought into Florida in the 14 and 1500s. And so over a period of time, they made it all the way here to the United States. And of course, as we know, California has been a huge area for growing citrus, namely oranges. And of course we see, unfortunately we see a lot of those orange groves and lemon groves being turned under for houses, but this is a fantastic area. I would encourage each and every one of you to put at least one citrus in your yard to enjoy it, because this is the place to grow almost anything. We can grow the most here in Southern California. We can grow the most varieties of any kind of plant, and we're blessed that way. But the citrus love it. We have to know a few things about the citrus to be successful with it. So, talking about the different varieties, we have the citron, and these are the varieties that are available today. And these are just some examples. There's hundreds and hundreds of different varieties of citrus. Some that are very common, some that are very rare, and we can talk about the sources later. Of course, there's the citron. There's one called Buddha's hand. It actually looks like fingers. There's the grapefruit, and there's many different varieties of grapefruit. There's of course the Flame and the Oro Blanco, just to name a couple. Kumquat, Nagami, lemon, lime, and Bear's Eureka, Meyer. Mandarin orange, honey would be an example. The Pomelo, Chandler. The sweet orange, Valencia, Washington navel, even blood oranges, which we can grow here and are very tasty as well. Sour orange, which Tunisian would be an example. Tangerines. But anyway, I'm not going to cover all of them. I just want to let you know that there's plenty of them out there. You can get the common ones. You can get them like the Washington navel or like a Satsuma tangerine. You can go to Home Depot, let's say out in Burbank. You can go to Armstrong Garden Center. If you want something a little more exotic, you can go, there's a nursery called Papaya, it's Papaya Tree Nursery, right? Alex out in the valley. And I can pass that information on to you if you like. The most important thing is that when you plant a citrus, just like the one over there in the corner, you have to choose a sunny spot. I'd say at least 6 to 8 hours a day for it to be successful. The citrus, they love the heat. It's important to put it in an area where they will receive that heat. Some varieties of citrus, like in the oranges, they need more heat. Like, for example, a Washington navel is better with the interior valley heat because that's what it takes to ripen. Otherwise, it won't ripen properly. Whereas a Valencia orange, if it's a little cooler where you live, the Valencia orange will ripen up just fine for you. So you have to start by thinking about, okay, I want a citrus. What do I have? What kind of location do I have around my house? Some people don't have a lot of space to grow a tree in the ground. You can go with a large pot, and citrus will grow well in pots. But you have to obviously choose the size of tree that's suited for either a pot or for the ground. One of the things that citrus absolutely love is they like to have free draining soil. They're very sensitive to Phytophthora, which is root rot. And we have very clay soils up here in the hills. We have patches of them. And if you put a plant without amending it right into a clay soil, and you water it too much, you're not aware of the watering, that can lead to root rot, Phytophthora, and gradually over a period of time, the plant will die. So you have to be, again, choosing the site, choosing the right soil, or amending the soil. So we were talking about using pots. If you have limited space, you want to choose. There's two different types of rootstock that you can buy a citrus tree on. You can buy a true dwarf, or you can buy a semi-dwarf. There are standard ones available, but that's more for commercial. So you want to make sure that you're choosing the right variety for your yard. And like within the pots, you want a true dwarf. True dwarf will go maybe 4 to 8 foot tall overall and about as wide. And it can be kept, you want to choose that for a pot, whereas a semi-dwarf, you can put it in a pot as well, but you want to, a semi-dwarf is actually better outside. It might grow anywhere from 8 to 15 feet. And that's probably a good size.
Can you keep them smaller?
You can. Yes, you can.
How small can you keep them?
Well, citrus respond well to pruning. And they basically, you don't want a heavy prune, but just more tip them, like Steve and I were talking about earlier. So long as do you have is it in a pot or in the ground?
It's in the ground, but I just don't want it getting so huge. So can I
Okay.
keep it to 8 feet?
You could, yeah, just basically,
It's a Washington navel.
yeah, basically by trimming it back. And then when you trim it, this is the right time to trim too. When you trim it, it actually will fill out and get fuller that way. So So anyway, it's you know, keep those kind of things in mind. We talked about the site. We talked about dwarf, true dwarf or semi-dwarf. So now let's talk about choosing the right tree when you go to the nursery. When you choose your citrus, that you choose one that has vigor, that's not root bound, has good scaffolding on top, not lopsided, nice straight trunk.
Will that one get 8 to 15 feet?
No, this might make it up to about 8 feet, but it's not going to. It certainly won't get up to 15 feet because it's a mire. A Eureka lemon, a semi-dwarf Eureka lemon, would make it to 15 feet. Yeah, I have one at home and it keeps pushing, so it's more upright. Okay. Does everybody everybody understands how to put plants in, put trees in, right? Used to be in the old days when I first started, when I was working in a nursery when I was a kid, they said, okay, dig a hole this deep, real deep, put lots of amendment at the bottom, and away you go. Well, that was the wrong thing that they were preaching in those days, because what happens is the whole plant actually starts sinking into the soil. Now the thing is when you're planting citrus, you don't want to cover the root flare. You actually want the root ball to sit above the soil level, because that root flare can right there at the root flare, it can get a rot if it's covered up. So you want to make sure that it's actually, you do a nice basin around the plant, but you do it just a little bit, maybe a little less than the root ball. Dig a little bit less, but you want to make it 2 to 3 times as wide, because that root growth, where the plant really takes off, is those lateral roots. The first 2 to 3 feet of the soil level is where the plant starts to feed and take off. That's where it anchors the tree. That's where it picks up the nutrients. That's where everything is pulled out of the soil, is on those 2 to 3 feet. So you want to dig sideways to, I'd say three times the diameter of the root ball would be best. So, and make sure when you do this that you amend the soil. If you have really clay soil, you're going to want to go a little bit heavier on the amendment. They say 50%, 40 to 50%. If your soil is very heavy, I might even go 60%. Look for a good organic, I'd say look for a good organic soil mix that has maybe a lot of forest product in it, kind of heavy coarse that will allow the drainage, maybe some peat moss in it. These days they're making planting mixes that have bat guano, they have kelp in it, they have all these wonderful things in there that are 100% organic. And they actually, what you're trying to do in there is you're trying to feed the bacteria, the beneficial bacteria that's in the soil. If you get that going there, and those will attach themselves to the roots of the tree, it'll help that tree convert the nutrients and bring it into the root system. Worm castings are good too. Yeah, basically what you're doing is you're not only feeding the tree, you're feeding the bacteria that's in the root zone that will help convert those nutrients, pull the nutrients into the tree. In the old days, they didn't understand that. They just thought, get urea. My dad used to say, okay, I got this bag of urea, I'm gonna feed all the plants, dumping pure chemicals. Well, if the plants, it's kind of like if you have a Slurpee and you got a straw in there, and there's plenty of Slurpee down there and you want to get to it, but the straw is stuck. You can't get to it. You're trying to pull it through, or those boba things now. That's the same way with the trees. If the mycorrhizae bacteria is not there, or the fungi is not there at the soil level helping out, and it needs to be fed, then the tree can't pull those nutrients in. It's very important to remember that. John?
Getting back to a tree plant.
Yes. You should check, but if it's more of a bush form, chances are it's going to be a true dwarf citrus. And that is suitable to put into a pot, into a large pot. And pots can after 4 or 5 years, you can leave it in there and you can keep feeding it. And then you can replant it, put new soil, shave off the root ball a little bit, put it back in, put some new soil in there. So you can keep it. People don't think about that, but you don't throw it away. You can just, and it'll basically re-injuvenate it. So yes, the answer is yes. Okay.
So if I get a dwarf citrus,
Mm-hmm.
like it says it's going to take 4 to 5 years at that stage for it to bear fruit.
No, I mean some of the fruit, the term and that size, this one will probably put some blooms on this year. So it's some plants, like for example on the Meyer, when it gets a certain size, when you buy it from the nursery, it depends on what size you buy it from the nursery, it's going to start setting bloom this next year. So it depends on the variety, really.
So once it sets bloom, then how long does it take for a fruit?
Well, okay, so right now, many citrus are blooming or just past blooming. I'm going to see my oranges are just about done with their blooming. I'll see those fruit this December or next year in February. So it's basically an entire season into the next year.
When do you prune, before or after the fruit?
Well, I wouldn't, I mean,
Of course after,
sure.
but I mean, before flowers.
This is a good time, and we're going to talk about fertilizing too, so this is a good question to ask. Once the fruit, you don't want to mess with the tree when it's blooming and it's setting the fruit. Once it sets the fruit, you can do a number of things. You can come back and fertilize. You don't want to fertilize with nitrogen while it's setting fruit because it can knock the fruit off also. Because then it all of a sudden gets the nitrogen and says, hey, this is a growth stage, I'm pushing it out. So I would wait till it sets fruit, take a look, and we'll talk a little bit about pruning and why you would prune. But citrus, for the most part, need to be trimmed rather than pruned heavily. And there's reasons for doing that. So we spoke a little bit about planting and using the correct planting mix. If you're going into pots, you want to use a potting soil. You don't want to use a planting mix. You want to use a potting soil that is used 100%. You don't mix it with any other soil. It goes straight in. So and also you want to again look for, with a potting soil, one that's organic, one that's well balanced, and one that has the mycorrhizae and the trace elements. How am I doing, Charles? I have another minute? Okay, all right. Okay, well, okay, so we'll talk a little bit, let's talk a little bit about pruning because Deborah brought that up. The reason why you prune citrus is because you're getting dead branches out of the tree. So you're taking, like over here, I see some dead branches, I pull out any cross branches on the inside, pretty much just to kind of open it up. Also, you can trim to shape the tree too. This is a good time to do it. You don't want to do it in the fall because whenever you trim, you're telling the tree, okay, grow some more, replace that foliage we took off. If you do it in late fall, you're putting out tender new shoots that could get frostbitten. So it's you really don't want to do that. But does that answer your question, Deborah?
Yeah, it's just different time. You know, it's like my kumquat tree is full of kumquats, but my orange tree is done. So they're different times.
Yeah, if it has fruit on it now, you can see pretty much which branches. But again, prune for shape, prune to get rid of the dead branches on the inside. Otherwise, or I should say trim, but otherwise you don't really need to prune it like you would prune regular trees. It's an evergreen, and you're taking away the potential of the tree when you do that. So anyway, I was going to talk about pests real quickly. Can I have another 3 minutes? Is that okay? All right. Okay. Okay. Anyway, I'll talk about watering real quickly. Watering is so important. Recently, what I did on my citrus is I've got my my watering, so it's bubbler, so it's triangle. I've got a triangle going all the way around it. You want to water evenly all the way around the citrus, not necessarily on the trunk. You want to deep water. Citrus like to be deep watered. They do like to be moist, but you need to let it dry out for the first 4 to 6 inches of the soil. They like to dry out a little bit, but they want to be moist underneath. Buy a moisture sensor, or basically, what are they called? Moisture monitors? Yeah. Steve? Moisture meters. Moisture meters, yeah. Buy a moisture meter that can go down to the root zone and check it, because that's a less invasive way to check the soil in the root zone. I've got a soil probe, but every time I put that, I know the plant screams because it's got this huge thing on there, but that's how I used to do it. But now I've got a moisture meter that I use. I use compost as mulch on top of the yeah. I haven't done that yet. Yeah, I'm sure that's a good way to do it. So as far as the watering goes, let it dry out in between. In the summertime, maybe every other week. In the wintertime, you can space it out further, and this is unestablished. In pots, it's going to be more frequently. Maybe once, twice a week. You just have to gauge it. Finally, and I'll be done here. There's a number of different number of different pests that you have to be aware of. As far as with the citrus, we've got, as far as aphids, scale mealybug mites, black spot, sooty mold. Usually neem oil can take care of that. Well, you have to, I would spray it during the time when the plant's actually growing and putting out new growth. Spray neem oil at night so it doesn't, because it's oil. It's like, you know, oil cooks things. The sun will go right through it and burn the leaf. So you want to do it at night. I do it every couple weeks, maybe. You can alternate that. I would also use, you know, of course, I work with Charles with IV Organic, but I've been using that on my citrus. I've been painting the trunks of my citrus to prevent, because in the past I've had these terrible problems with ground squirrels, with rodents, and once they go up there, they taste the castor bean oil. They just, you know, they don't bother with it. And I'm spraying the leaves, and I've noticed that, if my wife will attest to it, we don't have those chew marks on the leaves anymore because we've been spraying it. So my citrus this year look fantastic. So it's a matter of proper care. Leaf miner can be treated. There's so many chemicals, and I'm an organic gardener, so I'm not going to talk about chemicals, but there are chemicals out there. There's a class of chemicals, I call them neonics. They're neonicotinoids, and they're basically, they affect the nervous system of honeybees. So when you actually drench a tree with these neonicotinoids, Bayer actually sells this product. I don't even know why I look at it and I growl every time I walk past it. But it actually affects the nervous system, and that's why, have you ever heard of colony collapse disorder with bees? That is what they're attributing it to, that class of pesticides. I mean, it's been used for years and it's very effective, but it's so effective it's killing the bees too. So I don't want to even talk about it. Instead, there is a product called spinosad. And I think I've got some here just to show you. This is called Captain Jack's Dead Bug. I don't represent them or anything, but I'm just telling you, this came from Armstrong's. It's spinosad. This is very effective. Again, spray at night. And the spinosad is one of the most effective ways to take care of leaf miner. Leaf miner is the #1 cosmetic. I'd say it affects citrus cosmetically. It makes the leaves curl. It puts those channels through the leaf. It makes them look ugly, and it also takes the vigor out of the plant. So I'd say beginning in May and all the way through maybe until September, October, every 2-3 weeks I would spray this on the leaves. Spray it at night, and then you could alternate that with neem oil. Neem oil, this actually kills. This actually would kill the plant. Would kill the leaf miner, and then the neem oil would be also another way to you would alternate the treatments. You know, every couple of weeks I do neem oil and I would do the spinosad, and that's how you treat leaf miner aside from chemical methods. So anyway, thank you very much, and you're up, my man.
I'm up.
I'm going to pass it. I just want to explain one thing as I mic you.
Sure.
And each one of our presentations that we've done so far could easily be the 1.5 hours. I wanted to give you guys all a taste of ideas, and I hope you take it for the value of, you know, each one of us planting seeds of thoughts of things that you can do this spring and summer and fall in case you missed our next garden class. And now I want to pass it off to Steve List again. He's a teacher at the Silmar Charter High School. He's got an amazing program. I'm hoping he goes a little more into depth with what he does. And we were talking just before this class about when did our passion of plants begin, and I think it was 13 over here, and yep. I know for me is 7th grade. I remember reading a paragraph on grafting. I was hooked. Like, it took me 3 years to practice, but 3 years later, you know, I was now in 9th grade, and everybody was wanting to see my 8-in-1 peach tree. So if you've enjoyed this educational moment by IV Organics, be sure to like it, and most importantly, by subscribing below, you'll be connected to all of these other educational videos. Thanks again for watching, and happy gardening.